Curatorial process of body presence happens in roughly in 3 stages. The first of which is the selection of the work, and it was kind of a cooperative process with Flynn and I. It happened in his studio.
When selecting the works, we wanted to include the series as a whole because we felt that it was important to showcase that narrative from start to finish.
The decision to include both a series and the showcased kind of piece or action was to provide a contrast between the two, so that you could look at the series and see a kind of line of actions, and then you could look at a showcased action and it would bring out the individuality of each piece.
You both get to see a series of refined actions over time, and you also get to see the composure that I was able to achieve when just making one action.
The second stage in the curatorial process was to go into the actual gallery space and design the installation. So we, having selected the work, designed around the space specifically. The installation design consisted of 3 separate components. These components were responses to 3 distinct elements of the space. The first being 2 fairly empty walls that are good for hanging and displaying on the wall. The second being the floor space, which is enough floor space to put one large-sized floor installation. And the third and most challenging is what we kind of refer to as the window wall. So we responded to these 3 components in different ways. On both of the wall components, we decided to extend furniture out of the wall. So on the display walls, we built shelves out and painted them white to kind of continue the white of the wall. And on the window wall, we decided to build furniture out from each window as a response to the space. These are also painted white along with the wall so that it would contrast with the central cluster, which was our floor response. The central cluster was left raw in order to kind of accentuate the making process for the showcase items.
The central cluster is made out of crates, which are what I also transfer my work in. What I realized is that I could use the crates to present my work on and create sort of a comparison or almost a duality as well to the function of the crate and then subsequently the pedestal as a reference point to it being a removed art object from utility.
So the third component to curating the show, and the kind of overarching component, is how the show is experienced. And we wanted to promote a kind of circular flow of movement. And the first thing that you see in the space is this cluster, the central cluster. What the pedestal crates do is they hide the area of the body that you don't see, the area of the body that wasn't draped by the piece. And we wanted to promote the feeling that there is the presence of a body that's hidden, and the crates are hiding that presence. The terminal wall is where we presented the different arm fragments. Is an opportunity for the viewer to imagine their bodies in the piece. So it's as if you could walk up and sit at this terminal and imagine your arms in these pieces.
When designing the shelving units for the pieces, we wanted to create 2 tapered shelves, this one tapering in this direction, starting from largest to smallest in the series, which creates circulation for the show, but also creates a nice effect visually for the pieces and helps continue the narrative that I'm trying to tell within each series. So because we have this larger wall, we wanted to get the chance to showcase multiple series in a row in order to tell a larger portion of the entire narrative in sequence. That just provides another layer of information, another aspect of the narrative in union.
So in this space, we have two distinctly separate rooms. The first is the main exhibition space, and that's where we have the primary body of the show. The second is the studio space, and that's when we give viewers the opportunity to kind of get the backstory behind the work, how it was made and what the influences were. So we have these two transitional pieces. These are traces, and that transitions us into the studio space where we have more traces. We have a video of the process behind the work, and we also have a selection of materials here.
These are the materials that I use while in the making process, and we thought it would be nice to showcase them in their sort of basic form, just to allow the viewer to see them in that state and relate that back to the process of when I am using them. This is an example of one of the traces. Basically, what I do is I lay down a piece of paper as I'm about to finish the piece with some of the finishes I've developed, and more or less everything that falls onto the paper is evidence of that part of the process. It's a tracing, or as we call it, a trace, because, as I said, it's a remnant.